Nobody could find a place to park.
These are all the applicants, so
Oh, that's it.
we're ready to go whenever the board is.
All right.
All right. It's 7 PM and I will officially start the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for July 8th of 2025. I'd like to begin the meeting with the pledge, if everyone could please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Catherine, could you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bolo,
Here.
Mr. Spampanato,
Here.
Mr. Santola,
Here.
Mr. Mascara,
Here.
Mr. Accorso,
Here.
Miss Corsi,
Here.
Mr. DeMarco.
Here.
On the agenda this evening, we have one tabled matter and 3 scheduled matters. We do have proof of publication that was in the Webster Herald from last week. I will ask that anyone who's wishing to speak during the public hearing portion will sign in at the podium with your name and address. And then if you are wishing to speak, you'll be limited to 5 minutes, and then we will continue to the next person. The board does reserve the right not to start any further applications after 10 PM if need be. And with that, what am I missing? We'll start with the first tabled application at 771 Ridge Road, please.
So, property address 771 Ridge Road, applicant Alan Mallet. Zoning district is the MC, medium intensity commercial. The request is a use variance to allow a service garage to an existing auto sales business. The proposal is a construction of an approximately 2,856 square foot detached service garage. Relevant sections of the town ordinance, section 350-18 MC, medium intensity commercial, and 350-101D2A, which is for a use variance. Over to you.
So I put together this packet. I hope it's everything you guys are asking for. I hope it's, if you have any questions on what is inputted into this packet, I'd be more than happy to try to answer to the best of my ability. So, I mean, would you guys like me to go through it, or you guys just want to ask me questions on anything on it, or?
Does anyone from the board have any questions on the material that we received both last week and the previous meeting? All right, I guess I do have a question. I needed a spreadsheet, so I took all of the numbers that you put together in the document. So according to the information that you provided, if you're outsourcing the service on, I'm gonna call it pre-sale and post-sale warranty. So pre-sale service, when you outsource it, it's approximately $1,666 per vehicle. And if you were to insource it, it's about $1,091 per vehicle. And then your warranty would be approximately $900 versus $600 for vehicles based on the information that you provided with your labor rates versus outsourced labor rates. And then looking at your sales per year from your 2023-24 sales from April 1 to March 31st were 321 vehicles. And then that same period, 2024-25, was 360 vehicles.
Correct.
Okay. So as I'm running through my spreadsheet, it would appear that your outsourcing service costs are between $600,000 and $700,000 a year?
Yeah, I mean, mathematically, I mean, all accounts for, accountable for, yeah.
Okay. And then in sourced, it would be between 410 and 460 roughly thousand. So which, either way, it's about a $200,000 savings per year for the applicant to be able to do the service in-house as opposed to having to farm it out to other people. And that doesn't take into account potential delays or delays in either your current customers getting their vehicles back or new customer, you being able to get a new car into the fleet in order to sell it. As well as that doesn't take into account if you get price increases, because right now you're getting volume discounts.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Right now, the
That's-
service garage we currently do business with give us discounted labor rates because of the volume of business that we do provide them.
Okay. I just seemed like a lot, so when I threw all of your numbers into a spreadsheet, I was like, oh my gosh, it doesn't look like a lot per vehicle if it's, $1,600 or $1,100, but over the course of every vehicle,
It adds up fast.
it adds up quickly.
Right, so in rough figures, right, I lost the screen that was in front of me, but I think it's $600 a vehicle times 360 vehicles, is that
I-
right?
It's a
Which is about $216,000?
pre-sale, approximately, the savings for before the car's sold, pre-sale is $575, approximately the savings per vehicle.
Right, so we just rounded to
Right.
600
Yep.
times 350 vehicles, right?
Yep.
That's somewhere around a couple $100,000.
Correct.
210,000.
Yep,
Right,
Yeah.
that you put back in your pocket, okay. So, and, again, when you read what's required of a use variance, we asked, I think to give greater context for the board last time, that we have an idea of the business savings, but the analysis really runs to the property more so than the business. But I still think it's a good thing for the board to work through, to get the context of why this is a hardship. What was I gonna say? Okay, so that $200,000, give or take, juxtaposed against the cost to build, pay the mortgage, right? Was that in the previous chart?
The building cost was in our application.
It's in the application.
Okay, and
And
so
it was-
what does that take up?
$100,000 and be built in 6 months, it says in the application.
Okay. And, so, obviously we don't know what the increase in the taxes is. I'm assuming, there's some utility costs, but it sounds like, obviously over a 10-year period, you're going to, that $10,000 will be washed into the $200,000 savings, so. It certainly sounds like it's a net positive for the building of the building.
And then how do we, and maybe we did public hearing the last time, do we want to reopen it, or?
Probably not gonna hurt anything.
All right, does anybody else from the board have any questions at this point in time?
No.
All right, is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against this application? All right, seeing no one, returning the discussion back to the board.
I don't recall what the proof was in the record from the first meeting regarding the inability to use the property for any of the other permitted uses. Was that covered?
I don't know that we covered it because the property is already an auto sales
Right.
business.
He
and the
just wants to
applica-
add the garage to
application-
do this extra part
Yeah,
for his
he's
business.
not looking to change the business or sell the property.
Right.
So that standard's kind of, how do I interpret it for an existing business.
He just wants to build a garage and do repair work in the back of his sales
It's essentially
department.
addition.
No, I understand that, but you're changing the use of the lot. I mean, that's the whole point of the use variance.
Right.
Let me say this. There's going to be a difference between what makes logical sense and what the law requires,
Okay.
which is not unusual, okay? And so the use variance requires that analysis, that the other permitted uses will not allow a reasonable return on the property. I didn't look at what the other uses are there.
How could there be any other uses if he's already got a used car lot? What are the
Right,
uses?
he's already got the sales department. He just wants to cut his expenses down by off-siting his repairs
Yes, sir.
and going from there, because across the street, you've got a Ford dealership, a Chevy that already have it. He just wants to do this for himself to make more money.
That's the logic part of it, I get that. That's not lost on me,
Okay.
okay? To answer your question, what you would do is you'd have to move your business to a location where you can have a mechanics garage.
But this- To me, that doesn't make
Well,
sense. I don't-
again, that's why I preface my comments by saying logic versus what the law requires. Board can do whatever it wants, all right?
Well, all right, go ahead.
My job is to advise you what the legal requirements are.
So let me ask the
I'm not
other,
saying to deny the application, I'm just saying, if the record is complete, it should at least review what the other allowable uses are, for the lot, that's all.
okay. And
What are those? Can the staff tell us what those are?
There is a number of allowable uses
Mhm.
for this zoning district, which I will pull up for you to review. So in this zoning district, you can have appliance sales, a bar, tavern, and cocktail lounge, child and elderly care facilities, a commercial print shop, a commercial recreational facility, a convenience store without gasoline sales, a drugstore, employment agency, floor coverings, a funeral home, a furniture store, a grocery store, an indoor amusement center, lawn and garden supply store, medical and dental clinic, office machine sales and services, printing and publishing establishment, a restaurant.
So what section is that?
This is section 350-18.
Okay, and there are numbers 1 through, what's the last number?
26.
26.
Okay, very good. So the standard is not, I own the property, this is what I want to do, and I don't have to uninclude because I don't want to sell the property. That's not the standard.
Well, and I understand that if I am the property owner and I'm trying to sell the property and I can't get anybody within any of those uses to purchase it, that's typically when we see this, is when it's
That
a
is
use
correct.
variance because I can't find a buyer
That is correct.
within the purview that's permitted. But in this instance, it previously was an automotive sales and service department. I believe Neary was the last one that was in there.
Let me just hold on that. Was this a service location?
He
There
had
was
service
no-
there, whether
There
it
was
was.
no previous variances for service,
Right.
just sales.
You were indicating it was
But
sales and
it-
service.
it was
I just wanted to
sales-
see if that's accurate, that's, I'm sure, helpful.
It was like, if you didn't buy your car there, you're certainly not going to take your car there, but they did work on cars that they were selling. Was what I was led to believe, in trying to buy things from them.
Yeah, if that fact is a fact and it's in the record, so be it. I just didn't, I wasn't aware of that.
And I don't know how long it sat empty before the current owners owned it. So, and that would have probably been the time to come for service, but at the time you guys came for vehicle sales, not realizing what an impact it would be on your business not to do the service in-house. Can the board, or how does the board consider that if I leave this driveway and turn left, I've got 2 automotive sales and service locations that are on the same side of the
Yeah,
road?
I think that goes to the.
That goes within the findings?
Well, it goes to the criteria that,
Changing the character?
correct, and
Okay.
it certainly does not. No question about that.
So if I run through the standards, the first one is the applicant cannot, either will or will not be deprived of all economic use or benefit from the property. Now, it's not that he'll be deprived of all economic use, but based on the information provided to us, it would be approximately a cost. All right, is a reasonable return if I'm losing $200,000 a year by having to send out for service?
See, the reasonable return is typically measured by the allowable uses on the property,
Okay.
which the board is skipping over that part of it, or the applicant is skipping over that part of it. What the board, I'm hearing the board say is, hey, look, this is different, because he's already operating a business there. No question about that. But there needs to be, or the applicant wants an additional component of the business, which is not allowed. So you need a use variance. And typically in a use variance, the reasonable return is characterized by allowable uses, akin to when you sell a piece of property. If you can't sell it and get a reasonable return, that's usually driven by the fact that the allowable uses for that property, no one's interested in buying it because they cannot operate it at a reasonable return.
But
Or the sale price is too cheap for the seller to sell.
So I have a question, I'm
Yep.
gonna change your scenario.
Yep.
Let's say, hypothetically, let's say everything gets approved, he builds it. Now he wants to move his business to another town, okay? Or
Correct.
closes up, whatever the reason might be. So now he has to go sell it. First of all, if he doesn't find a business, or if buyer doesn't wanna use like the sales room, they may just tear everything down and then build what they need. How does that now come into effect? Because what if it's like, so what you're saying is, it's gotta be usable for this, or it's gotta meet the criteria, which I understand. But like, let's say, you know, I don't need a showroom, I don't need this. So I'll buy it, tear everything down, and build something brand new that fits the code. How does that fall into place?
I don't think I understand the question. If he
So,
sells the
let's say-
property and someone else
Wants to
builds.
buy it, but doesn't want to put an auto dealership or anything with sales or automotive. And they said, I just want the piece of property, I'm gonna rip everything down and build my own building. How's it change?
It doesn't, there's nothing,
Then there would be no use variance needed.
yeah.
But you're saying if he goes to sell, it's a hard time for him to sell. That's what I'm saying, you know, you're trying to find someone that meets that criteria. Like, you know, because right now it's set up technically for some automotive sales and service.
The applicant can sell the property anytime he wants. And the
Right.
person that buys it doesn't have to have a projection of what they're gonna build. Now, most commercial buyers will say, hey, I wanna buy your property, it's gonna be contingent upon the town's approval to put X, Y, Z on the property.
So, but could I take the first standard and look at it in one of 2 ways? Either I'm the owner of the property trying to sell it and I can't for a reasonable price based on none of the current uses are of interest. Or can I look at it as the operator of the existing business who, if I can't add another portion to that business, another function to the business, I'm not realizing a reasonable return with what I have, so I have to
I don't think
expand my
that's
scope?
I don't think that's the standard. However,
How do we know?
how do I know what? I know what, I know
What
what
did
the
our founding
law
fathers
is
mean?
in the state of New York is, listen, let me turn this inside out. The board ultimately can vote out whatever way it pleases. And if no one challenges it going forward, it becomes a fix, it's a law, it's enforceable. When I say turn it inside out, is that this board, when it creates a precedence, right, and another applicant comes in and says, hey, look, don't worry about whether the other approved uses can function here or not. I want to add a barber shop to my grocery store, because my kids are barbers and I want everybody on the same plat. I got all the people coming in the store, they can get their hair cut. It's a great setup. You're gonna have to treat, if that applicant indicates, hey, look, over on 7071 Ridge Road, you let this applicant expand their business to a use that's not allowed there. And you did not make the applicant demonstrate how the current uses that are approved, how he can't get a reasonable return on his property. That's what I mean, turning it inside out.
Well, 'cause you
It makes
have to
logical
defend
sense
it.
what the applicant wants to do. You know, if we're all sitting around having a cup of coffee, it makes perfect sense. It's a great idea, I get it. But the board just has to be wary of the fact that going forward, you're stretching or diluting or limiting the standard, in my legal opinion, by taking on that determination. I think the applicant has provided exactly what we asked them to provide from last week.
All right, how do we, as a board, if, and I guess I don't know what the other board members feel is appropriate based on their background and experience, but how would we tidily bundle it with respect to a use variance if that is indeed what the board elects to do for this applicant? How do we do it correctly and legally so that if it were to be challenged, the man next to me that has to defend it would be able to do so appropriately?
Is there any benefit to the fact that there are so many, I mean, he's not alone. I realize the other users there were pre-existing before the ordinance got changed. And I'm not sure the ordinance should have been changed personally, at least to exclude, because you have, within walking distance, 5 car dealerships that all have service. And I think the biggest difference here in challenging using the barbershop scenario is there aren't any other barbershops in that neighborhood. But look over here, there are several car dealers that have repair shops. And in my mind, it fits in the area, but
I guess my concern, since you brought it up, it's not, and I agree with the barbershop scenario, was a good illustration, but essentially, there's the same use going on all around it. I think, I'm not trying to speak for the board, but it's kind of hard to tell them no when within a mile away, everyone's doing the exact same thing. But since it is specific to this application, how much are we opening up the town and someone in your position to someone that wants to put up a drive-in theater in a residential district? Because they could say, well, you let someone along Ridge Road do something that wasn't already allowed, so why can't I do it on my property? And I'm going way off board with the illustration, but at some point in time, and I know there's a difference between common sense and what's legal. So I guess my concern was, well, at least not until you brought it up and made it a clear point, are we jamming up the town if we look at this and say, yeah, I don't see any issue with it from a common sense point? I honestly don't know whether or not someone else is gonna come by 10 years from now and say, hey, let this guy do this so I can do anything I want in my yard. And you have to let me do it because you gave this guy
Except that we do consider each application to stand on its own merit.
I know that, but that's why
Regardless of-
he just said that
But-
we're opening ourselves up because like I said, I think this is a,
But if we button it up tightly and make sure that
no,
it's,
I'm on your side.
But-
I'm just thinking that,
but yeah, anybody can interpret anything.
that's what I'm saying, but I wasn't concerned about the legal aspects of it until he pointed out, and I don't wanna do that. I mean, but I also believe that the property, the existing use with the proposed addition, I don't think, first and foremost, it's not gonna be a detriment to the neighborhood,
Or the environment.
or the environment. The only question I would have is, and I know it's supposed to be a gray area, what's a hardship? You know, I can't make $1 million a year on my property isn't necessarily a hardship. And I know he didn't say that, but I don't know where the line is drawn at a hardship. So, but in my opinion, that wasn't as important as look on the other side of him and across the street. That's no different, even though there's that zoning line.
Right,
And
well,
that was my guiding until our esteemed attorney brought up the legal aspects of it.
well, and if I look at standards 2 through 4, the alleged hardship relating to the property in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or the neighborhood. I would say in that case, yes, because everybody around him is doing exactly what he would like to do. The requested use variance, if granted, will certainly not alter the essential character of the neighborhood since everybody else is already doing it, which I know, if everybody's doing it, it doesn't mean you're still supposed to jump off the bridge. And the alleged hardship has not been self-created in that I don't know, if I were not on the board, I would not necessarily know, based on all of the other businesses around, that I could do sales at that location without fixing the cars that I'm selling. And then let me ask, I'm gonna ask another question, and I know I'm talking too much. If I go back to, all right, 1 or 2 through 4 make sense? So just number
Yeah,
1
yeah.
is the one that
Yeah.
was throwing us into the weeds? We had another application in the past before this board that was an existing use on a piece of property for the gentleman that does the snow blower, snow plowing throughout town. And wanted to add another use to his property because based on interest rates went up and cost of equipment went up and the economy and COVID and everything, he couldn't make ends meet and his business could no longer be viable unless he was able to rent out 2 bays of that building.
I recall that.
How is this different? Respectfully, I'm asking. Not argumentatively.
That's the whole point. It may not be different, and that would be the type of historical fact and approval that the applicant, which you just did for him, could point to as a reason why you should approve it.
Well, and that's, I'm just trying to, like, what did we have? I mean, we had a lot of numbers from that gentleman that basically showed his business would not be liquid without being able to pay some.
Was it a special use permit, or was that a
I thought
use
it was a
variance?
use variance, but maybe it was a special use permit. And then that was my other question, but Erica
Mhm.
helped me realize that it's not possible, is could we do a special permit
It's-
that's only for this applicant at this location, but if you sell it,
It's not a permitted use, though.
right,
Is it Millet?
Millet.
Millet. Mr. Millet, how long have you owned the property for?
Technically, right now, sir, we don't own the property. We are in under a lease with the property through Norweb Leasing. The contingencies of us purchasing this property is gonna be based upon whether we're gonna be permitted to build a service department to continue doing business in Webster.
Were we aware of that fact?
no.
Yes,
No, so it's a lease.
it's in the paperwork. It's in the initial agreement that Best Buy Auto Sales, I got the signed agreement from Norweb Leasing allowing us to follow through with this process, knowing that we're not the titled owners to the property.
Right, but I guess I didn't realize that your plan was to purchase the property if
So it's a lease. to
this
buy.
use became,
So it's like a lease to buy type deal?
Correct, we have first right, we have a
Right,
set
that's-
amount, we have a set amount in a contract that, where we can purchase the property for.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That amount's set based upon what the property is now.
Oh, yeah, it's on the application.
It is on the application, it's, the
Name, property owner, Norway.
property owner is actually Norweb Leasing.
How long have they owned it, do you know?
To my understanding, they've owned it 20, 30 years.
Was it a car dealership
It's
before
been a
you?
car dealership, to my understanding, for, I believe like someone mentioned, Joe Neary
It
was there
Joe
for a
Neary's.
while.
I had AI look that up.
Okay,
Probably
thank
10
you.
years ago, 15 years ago, maybe longer.
He knew what
And
he
how
was
long have you
doing.
been there?
We've been there 2
Sorry.
years. The sales
I
has
just
been,
had my AI
the 2 years we've been in that property.
All right, let me ask you a question. So basically you said lease to buy if you can get this to go through, right? If you can't, it sounded like for a minute you would have to move business out of Webster.
I mean, we'd have to definitely
You're,
take that in consideration,
Consider-
yeah.
okay.
Mhm, absolutely. We have the option in the lease agreement with it. We have the amount to buy the property as it sits now is ironed out. We do have, an extension,
okay,
in place, so it would give us time if,
Right.
it would
I-
give
I
us time
understand
if
that.
we had to go that route. I mean, hopefully we don't have to.
No.
You know, we like the area. We've been, you know, we wanted to make sure that, the area was gonna work for us as well, you know?
okay, I understand that.
Help. It makes sense that it would be permitted based on what else is currently in use in the neighborhood.
And it sounds like both those parties are in agreement with each other too.
And we can show with the applicant's costs that they're on average $210,000 a year out of pocket more by not being able to do their own internal service.
I think that also speaks, it's not necessarily strictly profit, it's also competitiveness with other used car dealers.
Mm-hmm.
What your, you know, what your overhead cost determines what you're gonna sell the cars for. I'd like to move the question if we can. I don't think we're gonna go, I think we're going around in circles personally.
No, it just,
I don't know
my
how
only
to,
concern is making sure that
that
we
it's
have a
only this
defensible-
property.
Right, and that our position is as bulletproof as we can make it, which doesn't mean it's absolutely bulletproof, but if someone says you did this here, we can show every single reason why we said yes.
And I think the distinguishing factor here, if the board was inclined to approve it, is the proximity of the other service, the other mechanics, locations, you know, immediately adjacent to this one. I mean, that's a significant factor.
I mean, all of the auto sales within Webster that I'm aware of
Right on the
are
strip.
between Hatch Road and
5 Mile Line.
Shoecraft.
No, go up the 5 Mile Line, there's that used car dealership too, on the corner of 5 Mile. and
Right,
Ridge.
but then if
The
I go
big one-
further
but the
east
big
to Hard
ones,
Road,
Yes,
but that stretch on Ridge Road, that's it. Well, and there's one guy on 5 Mile Line Road just north of Ridge who's adjacent to the frontage properties that also is a used car lot.
yeah, across from the Sunoco station next to the
Yeah,
American Legion, that was the
that's-
one I was talking about.
That's within,
That's
but that's the only area within town that permits vehicle sales. And all of those vehicle sales, with the exception of the two that are around 5 Mile, do their own service. And I guess I don't know what happens at the property on 5 Mile Ridge. I'm not sure if they do service or not. I've only ever driven past it.
but there's not enough land for them to even build anything, because the Legion parking lot's behind them, so they're landlocked.
Well, I think we've kind of beat it as much as we can. Do we want to move forward? Do we want to?
Oh. What is my seeker? Is it unlisted?
Did we do seeker
We did not yet.
originally?
No,
No,
we
we
had tabled
just
the whole
tabled it.
thing, because we were talking in circles, but with less information before, so I think now we at least have the right information.
I'd rather depend on your notes than my memory.
Yeah, I have a crib sheet I typed up. All right, I'll make a motion for under New York CRR Section 617 of the Environmental Code, for seeker to be an unlisted action.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone want to run through findings of fact? I've talked too much. That's my notes. Right, I think we've covered most of them. As far as unique circumstances, the alleged hardship relating to the property is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district, because everyone else in the district that's doing this use that is doing auto sales already has the ability to do auto service. The essential character of the neighborhood will not be altered if this use variance is granted, because, again, 2 doors to the left, 2 doors to the right, within that section on the south side of Ridge Road, there are several other businesses already doing exactly what this applicant would like to do, and they've been there for years. I'll say it's not self-created, again, because the code is limiting this applicant to not be able to do what, I don't even know if they're your competitors, but your competitors and other similar businesses are doing right along the same stretch. The other remedy is that the applicant can continue to outsource, but if they continue to outsource, then they're going to be an additional $210,000 or more out of pocket annually to not do this. But then the reasonable return, can we apply that to the reasonable return of the existing business without the additional function, or does it have to be upon the sale of the property? And I guess I don't know the right answer to that.
I didn't hear the last part of that.
I don't know how to, if I look at reasonable return two-pronged, either because I'm trying to sell it and I can't, or I'm trying to make a go of it with an allowable use, and within that allowable use, unless I don't have a little bit more of a use, I can't make a reasonable return. Which is kind of how I had read that, but
Isn't it a question being competitive too? As part of the reasonable return? You can't sell a car for, well, I'm just throwing numbers out there, $1,000 that somebody else can afford to sell for $800.
well, and I guess let me ask the applicant that question. Does that then impact your pricing? And I know every car sale, there's some negotiation, but if currently, right now, you're paying an extra $1,600, all right, what was the delta between them? So, but $600 more to service it than, say, your competitor next door who's able to fix his own vehicles. are you eating that $600, or do you have to add that to the price of the car in order to continue to break even?
We gotta
Which then
add-
impacts your sales.
Yeah, we gotta, in order to stay competitive with our pricing, we gotta be able to afford to make the vehicle to New York standards service-wise. And with increasing of parts and everything else, it would be hard to continue. I mean, it would, these figures are just gonna get worse as time goes. In order for us to price our cars competitively to sell them, you know what I mean? It's, if we're having to put more and more into the cars, we obviously have to sell them for more and more money to try to not lose money,
Right.
to sell a car.
So in theory, because of this, your fixed cost is $600 higher per vehicle than the next door dealership for the same car.
Correct, we have to take that into accountability
Okay.
when pricing our vehicles as well, yes. Same thing with like the callback forms, like it was further
Right.
into the thing, we have to take that kind of stuff into accountability as well. You know, we don't have a crystal ball to say whether something may or may not go wrong within the grace period of what New York State requires dealers to stand behind their vehicles for.
Right.
That, as well, also takes an initial cost into effect that we have to account for. You know, it's, you know, there's, it's, I mean, it's.
Well,
New
and
York
it's
State-
risk that you're taking on,
Correct. yeah.
because I'm assuming all of your vehicles are used vehicles, they're not, or pre-owned vehicles, they're not new from,
They're all pre-owned, yeah.
okay. So it's not like the Chevy dealer across the street, if I bring a warranty issue in, eventually Chevy pays that dealer, this is
It's
your
cost out of
cost.
our pocket.
Yeah, okay,
It's,
which adds another potential level of loss.
I mean, transporting the vehicles, we're less drivers on the road. You guys ever try to turn left out of a Ridge Road on a Friday night at 5:30?
No more
We
than
got-
necessary.
300 vehicles selling a year, they gotta get transported somewhere up and down, turning in and out of there, Ridge Road, 104. Like I said, we have to drive all the way out to Wayne County to find affordable labor rates that allows us to even stay in business.
I guess I'll ask the question, does anybody believe that we have enough information with which to make to grant a variance or make a motion? And then would someone like to be the one to make that motion, please?
I'll make the motion. What do I have to say? I move to
Basically
approve
read
the, I move to approve the applicant's application as submitted.
Oh, man, we can say that.
I move to approve the use variance for Best Buy Auto Sales located at 771 Ridge Road. Applicant Alan Millette to allow construction of a motor vehicle service station addition associated with an existing used car sales business on a 1.73 acre parcel having located in the MC Medium Intensity Commercial District under sections 350-18, 350-70, and 350-101 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Second.
Mr. Corso?
Aye.
Mr. Centola?
Aye.
Mr. Mascarott?
Aye.
Mr. Spampanato?
Nay.
Mrs. Volo.
Aye. I guess I would like to include within the comments of the motion, that the motion is granted based on the financial information that was submitted by this applicant. And I don't really need an, Erica, would I condition this, and you do need to obtain all necessary governmental permits. 1 year significant construction typically applies to an area variance. Would that also apply in this case? Or 1 year to begin?
You can add that in to your approvals and your motion.
Okay. Make
It's
that
up-
part of
that's
the
up to the
conditions
board,
that,
But a use variance runs with the land, so once it's granted,
okay. But if the applicant were not to fulfill the use within some period of time, does it expire?
correct, yes, it's.
Okay, so I guess I would
9
condition
months.
it that if, within 1 year from this evening's approval, if the applicant has not begun this secondary use at this facility, then the variance expires and we can come back and talk about it all over again.
Correct.
And I wouldn't think it would take a year to get the permits and whatnot and the building built.
That's not part of the motion, so. I might have ever really done it.
Okay, does the board agree to that condition? Please?
Yeah.
Okay. And all the board members have agreed by noting yes. All right. One more thing.
What is it?
I don't know. Minutes, just in case it comes back.
Want their fence people to hold the fence up.
Okay, so you're approved.
Sound good?
Wait,
I'm just
John-
gonna ask kind of-
John said to hang on for one moment.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, what are we waiting on?
So how are you defining him getting that started? By construction of the building?
I would say the use itself has to begin within 1 year of this meeting.
So if they're out in the parking lot and they got a hood open and they're changing oil, does that count?
No.
So
It-
what you wanna do is be specific.
Okay. All right.
You've approved a 2,800 square foot
We
building.
have approved a 2,800 square foot building, and within 1 year of this meeting, you need to be within that building, not just in a tent in the back parking lot or working in the side parking lot. Doing
Structure
vehicle
of the
maintenance
building has to
outside.
be assembled, is that what's kind of what you're looking for?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, which I
No
think is doable within 12 months,
absolutely,
and you probably want to get that done
as soon as possible.
soon as possible.
Correct.
To start saving something.
Correct.
So, all right, and the board is in agreement with that then?
Yeah.
That it will be
Will-
within that
does he get any
2,800
planning
square
board
foot,
approval For the addition?
because that will need planning board approval?
I don't know, will it?
No,
That
Eric
building is
saying no.
okay?
Okay, well
Okay.
then just building.
Just get your permits
building permits.
from the
So,
town quickly.
So I'm clear understanding from here forward, I just need to get the building permits in?
You need to get your building
Go to the
permits.
Planning board?
And according to Ms. Corsi, you do not need to go to planning board for approval.
Okay,
But you can come to the town later this week, I would think, and get whatever paperwork you need and start your permitting
apply for the
process.
permits?
Correct. You can
Okay.
do that through the building department. They'll work with you on all of your
The
building
architect
permits.
drawings and all that good stuff?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
All right,
Is it, are we good?
Yep.
thank you.
Should I wait? So you're
Congratulations.
saying I should wait like a week before I apply for it? for
No,
all this
you
stuff?
can go in
I
tomorrow
can go
if you'd
tomorrow and
like.
apply for it? Perfect.
Yes.
Okay,
That sounds good.
thank you.
Appreciate your time, thank you.
You're welcome.
Was there an agency agreement in the application?
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a privacy fence at 457 Thrushwood Lane. Applicant James Samuelson is requesting to allow a 6-foot fence in the front yard of a corner lot. The proposal is to construct a 6-foot fence in the front yard of a corner lot. Is Mr. Samuelson here? If you want to come up to the podium. Relevant sections of the code, section 350-12, it's R3, single-family residential district, and 350-79B, no fence in excess of 4 feet in height shall be erected in the front setback of any residential lot.
The one that just walked out? Hold on.
You're up, sir. You want to just explain your project, where it's going, et cetera?
So hopefully this is an easy layup for you guys.
Make sure I didn't give you one that's not, that's one that's off the document.
It's a corner lot, and they're just looking to extend the fence out to the, I think there's a map and everything in there, in all your documents. Out to the right of way. And there are actually 2 other similar lots within eye distance of the said parcel. That's it. They're 438 Merwood and 446 Merwood, almost, are very similar. Again, corner lots with very small backyards. There's a swimming pool in the backyard currently, which was there when the property was purchased. I'm guessing this is probably, I don't know, but I assume this is probably a pretty standard request with corner lots like this with such small backyards. And it creates an area, more lawn area for young kids to play separate from the pool area and that sort of thing.
Makes sense. Do any of the board members have any other?
You're gonna keep the
Questions?
existing fence around the pool and just add the new one along the right of way and then back to the house?
I believe the fence is gonna, the old fence is gonna go down, so we're gonna add new fence.
Okay. Any side openings where the new fence is gonna be, either, you know,
Well, there'll be,
like a gate on?
there'll be a gate, probably, the fence is gonna slide forward a little bit on the end of the house, and then the gate would be there by
Okay.
the side door.
And then what type of fence? I know it's stockade right now. Did they?
No, another wood-type fence.
Okay, that's fine.
Can I understand what the corner lots, I've lived in a corner house many times. It just, as I drove down the street and looking at the fence, it looks like you're gonna build a wall there with a 6-foot fence, and that's, and I understand why you want it. And I'm just wondering if you could set it back a couple feet more and put some plantings in to kind of break up the view of the wooden fence so that it's not a solid wall, that it looks more inviting in a residential area, I guess. If you would consider that.
I think, I mean, it sounds like a good idea. I mean, it wasn't requested of others in the neighborhood. It sounds like kind of there's been precedence in it. I mean, they don't seem to have plantings at the other places.
I
Although,
apologize for that, but I wasn't on the board then.
Well, I guess my question for Erica, because I don't know, I know we do have other corner lots in the neighborhood that have fences in both front yards or in the side front yard. were they all the way up to the right-of-way? The ones that I can remember have been set back 5 or 10 feet from the right-of-way. But I don't know everybody that's been approved in that neighborhood, just,
There have been examples of both, right to the property line and setback 5 or so feet. Again, in this neighborhood, I would have to look in our records exactly to see what was approved. So I can't speak to this neighborhood specifically. But in the past, yes, there has been ones right up to the property line and ones that have been set back 5 or so feet.
okay.
This is James. I was speaking for him. I'm going to let him answer a few questions. David asked about moving the fence forward a little bit and putting some plantings in front of it. So,
This is
Okay.
Mr. Samuelson.
Sir, can I just have you state your name for the record, just so
Sure.
that we,
Yep, my name is James Samuelson.
do you understand what the board is saying to, instead of it going all the way to the right-of-way, bring it in 5 or 10 feet, just so that there's a little bit of,
Yes.
A little bit
In
more
fact, I think I
space.
have it proposed at 10 feet off
Yeah.
the right-of-way
It's-
already.
If you
oh,
look
it's
at-
10 feet off the right-of-way, it's not all the way up
That's
to
what
the
that line is
right-of-way?
showing. off to
That
the
is
side.
correct. Yep.
Oh, okay.
That's actually a utility easement that it's drawn on,
Right.
not the right-of-way.
Which is.
Okay,
they
so
have
you're
to have-
already, my apologies.
That's okay.
So is it going up to,
It's going right up to the
when
utility
I was
easement, which is
there,
10 feet
there
in.
was a, I don't remember what kind of tree, but some type of an evergreen that was along that area. Is it gonna be roughly in line with that?
Yeah, so it's actually, it won't even be to that last evergreen tree.
Okay.
There's a fire hydrant that sits kind of underneath the edge of that evergreen tree.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're referring to at the corner? That's actually a pear tree.
No, the neighbor's
In the
evergreens
corner.
in the back.
Yep,
Those.
correct. Yeah, it's a blue spruce.
So it's not gonna be as far out as those.
No, it'll actually not even probably come to the last tree. It'll be
Okay.
inside the last tree. Because I believe that yellow line that appears on the screen is the right-of-way.
Mhm.
I'm going to be 10 foot inside of that.
Yeah, so he's coming up to the end of the right of way, the
No, he's going up to the,
utility right of way.
right up to the utility easement.
Okay,
And quite frankly, I think, I know shrubs do not have an extensive root system, but I'm opposed to planting anything major
Yeah.
over any type of utility.
Yeah. I would-
Because quite frankly, even if we put in beautiful shrubs, they come up and whatever utilities underneath there gets
Right.
dug up, they're under no obligation to replace anything because it's their easement.
Right.
So I would be very hesitant to put a condition on him that may cost him more money and won't guarantee the results that you're looking for.
Right. For example.
That's why I asked if he could set it back a couple of feet more and
Well,
do some plantings.
That would
I
be
think that-
acceptable to me. If it was like 3-4 feet tops, I can still shoehorn in some plants.
Yeah, because, for example, if green light comes in, they're gonna directional drill under that, and they'll run everything under the ground, so then they don't have to replace anything since they're right in the easement, utility easement.
That easement is RG&E specifically.
Yeah, I'm just using green light because I know they directional drill, because I
Yeah.
used to be on a fiber optic screw that did
Yep.
it for them.
I think they've already been through the neighborhood
Yeah.
luckily, so.
So what I think I'm hearing is that you're willing to bring the fence 4 feet inside of the utility easement so that there's room to put just a little, something to break up the wall of the fence.
If that's a requirement, yes.
Is that what you're looking for, John?
Yes.
It's
that'd
definitely
be
not what they
fine.
did across the street.
All right. I'm trying to, 393 has a fence.
Sure.
Go.
It's actually Merwood, so if you, if you head south, It's 446
Merwood
Merwood.
Lane. What's the address?
446 Merwood.
Right there on the corner.
Yep, corner
Okay.
lot, right there.
Okay, that's,
That's a prime example of what I'm looking to do.
okay, and you see, okay, so
And
it's
they're
in.
about 10 foot
10 foot in.
inside the right-of-way as well. Probably ran into a similar situation where I don't know if there's a utility easement over there or not, but.
So just to clarify, you are looking to do essentially exactly what 446 has. You're not going right up to the property line. You're going to be 10 feet within your property line, which is also away from the utility easement.
Correct.
Okay, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
that clarification.
One slight difference, you said exactly like that, not quite exact. I don't intend to come to the front of the garage.
Correct.
I intend to
In
only
terms
come
of
about-
placement to the property line.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, it's certainly not going to be a line of sight issue.
Shouldn't be because it's
Back far enough.
It's back far enough
back
that.
far enough.
All right, let me open it for public hearing. This meeting is a public hearing, and anyone wishing to speak for or against this application can come forward at this time. Seeing no one, I will return the discussion back to the board and close the public hearing. Any comments?
My own personal opinion, as much as I appreciate landscaping, if you have them set it off a couple feet off, it gives them the option of doing it instead of making it
Okay,
a requirement. He can do it if he wants, because having a corner lot myself, you want at least some sort of mow strip or gravel bed just to make it easier to mow.
right, right.
So I get that, but, and then if you're gonna tell me he needs to plant it, and we don't force a planting plan upon him, he could put one shrub in and say, I met your requirements.
Well, and I'm,
And that's what I'm trying to avoid, is that he met our requirement. I put an arborvitae in there, and he's met our requirements. If we tell him to set it back a couple feet, so if he wants to at a later date, do it himself, he has the ability to do so. And unless we're gonna tell him he needs to plant, junipers, 24-inch diameter, installed 5 feet on center for the entire 60 feet or so, I don't think we necessarily want to design it for him.
no, and a wooden fence to me is much more, or much less in your face than a white vinyl fence, in that it just kind of blends in better.
No, I agree, that's
and
just my
the-
opinion, I mean, I'll.
The finished side of the fence is gonna be on the outside anyway.
And to clarify, this was not a white vinyl fence. This is a pine fence.
Right, I
Right.
already asked that.
Yep, okay.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I don't wanna force plantings that may or may not.
No.
No,
But-
no
I mean,
need.
No, there's,
Your wife is going to have an idea of what she wants along the outside of that fence, and,
And I wasn't trying to, I think your suggestion is great, but unless we have a planting plan that we can enforce,
or,
it's kind of toothless that,
then so I have to carry over that.
technically ground cover is a plant, so he could just put ground cover on the back of it and say he did it, and he'd legally be correct, so. But normally I agree with 100% with you.
My only concern is it is a long stretch of fence.
It's like 60 feet.
That's a long stretch, and all you're gonna look at is a wood wall. And I just thought if somehow it could be broken up.
I don't disagree, but I question whether we're the proper authority to enforce the visual view shed there.
well, my only concern is that we haven't forced other applicants to do it.
Right.
but we can certainly suggest it. I see what you mean though, because it will be,
60 feet. I don't think the one that they just showed on Marwood is that long. But that's okay. I mean, if you haven't done it before, fine.
His is not gonna be 60 because of the way the lot is designed.
50. Figure the house is gonna be about,
Right, so it's coming
30.
it's coming right here too.
no, I'm just talking about the whole other right away.
Right. But if you're, he's not coming.
all right, let me do seeker. Pursuant to New York CRR, Section 617 of the Environmental Code, I'll make a motion for a type 2 seeker.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, does anyone want to run through findings?
I'll do the findings. If approved, the application would not have an undesirable effect on the existing character of the neighborhood. It wouldn't be a detriment to his or any other properties. There is no other remedy to get some privacy in your backyard than fencing it in, because it, especially since it is a corner lot, so there is no other, no realistic remedy. The request is not significant. In fact, it's 10 feet, a minimum of 10 feet in more than it needs to, or that it could be, and that it will not have any adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And it really isn't self-created because it's a corner lot, and it's difficult to get any usable private area on a corner lot.
All right, I am going to add in, now granted, because it's a corner lot, it has 2 front yards, but if it were a traditional side yard setback, the 6-foot fence could be permitted right on the lot line. So in this case, it will be better than that because it's going to be in by the 10-foot easement and then another 4 feet?
I accept that, yes,
Okay,
with the option to landscape.
yes. But make it attractive. A wooden fence, and it is going to be a wooden fence is what you are agreeing to. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, I make a motion that we approve an area variance for a privacy fence located at 457 Crushwood Lane, to grant a area variance to allow a 6-foot privacy fence in the front yard of a corner lot on a 0.45 acre parcel having SBL number 063.14-3-16, located in the R3 Single Family Residential District under sections 350-12, 350-79, and 350-101 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Okay, and included in that will be that it will be 4 feet off of the
Okay.
utility easement.
And
Sec, go ahead.
No, and that the fence will be 4 feet off the existing utility easement.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Santola,
Aye.
Mrs. Volo,
Aye.
Mr. Spampanato,
Aye.
Mr. Mascarot,
Aye.
Mr. Corso.
Aye.
All right, you have your variance, conditioned upon 1 year of meaningful construction to erect your fence and the receipt of all proper permits from the town of Webster, which you can begin getting tomorrow.
Thank you.
I think that's it. Congratulations, thank you.
Next application is a 3 Seasons room at 918 Lothario Circle. Applicant Joseph Swick, R3 Single Family Residential District, is requesting a rear yard setback of 50.5 feet where 50 feet is required, with the proposed construction of a 329.8 square foot 3 Seasons room. This is in the R3 Single Family Residential District. Relevant town code sections is 350-12B 5C which is the minimum rear yard setback requirement. If you
Do
want
you
to,
mind if I approach? I have signatures for neighboring properties that
Thank you.
are aware of what the plan is. And I got a number of copies.
It's the exact opposite application. You got the grant.
So on the left side, on the top is people that live within Lothario Circle, and people on the right side of the sign are for Jeffrey, correct?
Okay.
Adjacent properties. So what I had there before, I used, 11 years ago, I built a 17 by 24 deck, which was, I think at that time, it was a 50-foot setback that was acceptable for the deck. I kind of want to take up the same amount of area. It's actually a smaller, so instead of a 17 by 24, I want to reduce it to a 17 by 19 in a few inches. But with enclosing it, I found out later on that I had an additional 10 feet that of the setback that I wasn't aware of before, which would not be really functional for this kind of a setting or for a building, because that would reduce me down from a 17-foot room to a 7-foot deep room. So, you know, again, I'm coming in front of the board, I'm asking for a variance for an additional 10 feet so that I can have an actual reasonable living space, 3-season room of a size of 17 by 19 and a few inches, so. And the reason the deck is gone is because me and my neighbor both put up decks at the same time 11 years ago, and they both rotted out, even though they had airflow and everything, and I wasn't about to reinvest into another deck and have the same thing happen again, so we decided to step it up a little bit to go for a 3-season room. So.
Makes sense.
makes sense to me.
And it gives you a little bit more use throughout the year as opposed to just the 3 months of nice weather that we
Right,
get.
and my daughter's 14, and she's only gonna be in the house another 4 years, and she's been asking for this, so I'd kind of like to give it to her, so.
All right, any comments or questions from the board members? I did notice when I was driving through the area, this lots, especially in the Lothario Circle, are very short rear yards, which I don't know, but I'm suspecting this was probably developed as a cluster subdivision in order to make the houses closer together and then have some preserved space elsewhere in the subdivision, which is helpful, except when any of the homeowners want to come put some type of a structure onto the back of the house. Most of the houses along, at least that side of the street, are lined up within the 50 feet of the rear lot line. And there's also, behind most of the houses, I'll call it a hedgerow of sorts, so that most of them are really not within view from the neighbors on the street behind them, which is John Leo Drive. There are a couple of other 3-season rooms that have gone up in that subdivision with some encroachment into the setback for the same reason, because the 50-foot, the house is at the 50-foot line in most instances. I will open this up for public comment. If anyone would like to speak for or against this application, please come to the podium and identify yourself. Sure. All right, seeing no one, I will return the discussion back to the board. And pursuant to NYCRR Section 617 of the Environmental Code, I'll make a motion for a type 2 seeker.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. If I can find my findings, I'll run through them if you'd like. An undesirable change will not be produced in the character of the neighborhood, in no detriment to nearby properties. There are a couple of other similar additions within, I'll call it the larger neighborhood of Lothario and John Leo Drive, and the rear yards are fairly short. The benefit really cannot be achieved by any other method. As the applicant noted, by bringing this into compliance, the depth of the room is only 7 feet, and it is replacing a deck that was actually deeper than this addition will be at the end. The requested area variance is not substantial. The applicant's deck was further into the setback than this room is going to be, so it will be an improvement to the setback with respect to having a structure there. It will not have any adverse physical or environmental adverse impacts on the environment, or the neighborhood or the district. The backyards do have some greenery in between the yards, so it'll be shielded somewhat from the neighbor to the rear. I do also want to make note that we do have signatures both from the surrounding homes on Lothario Circle and the homes behind this addition on John Leo Drive that have signed that they're in agreement of this addition. And most variances are self-created, but given the placement of the house on the lot, there's really not anything that can be added to the rear of this structure without permission being granted from the zoning board. Anything anyone would like to add to that? Nothing? All right. I'll make a motion to grant an area variance for a 3-season room at 918 Lothario Circle to allow a rear setback of 40.5 feet, where 50 feet is required, for the construction of a 329.8 square foot 3-season room on a .42 acre parcel. The dimensions of that to be 17, all right, this is tiny print,
17 by 19.4.
17 feet deep by 19.3 feet wide. And that is in a single-family residential district, and it is falling under sections 350-12 and 350-101 of Webster Town Code.
Second.
Mrs. Bolo?
Aye.
Mr. Spampanato?
Aye.
Mr. Santola?
Aye.
Mr. Mascaro?
Aye.
Mr. Corso?
Aye.
You have your variance. You have 1 year to start meaningful construction, and you must obtain all necessary governmental permits, and good luck.
I appreciate it, thank you very much. The only question I have is, when I was up at the office, signing up to come down here to meet with you, they told me it was gonna take a couple days before I could come in and get the permit. Is that accurate, or can I come in tomorrow and get it?
You can fill out the permit tomorrow and start that process.
Okay.
It will take about 5 to 7 days for
Okay.
the building inspector to actually issue that permit
All
to
right,
you.
appreciate it,
Yep.
thank you. All right.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, final application for the evening is 860 Buttermilk Circle, Michael Hauser? Located in an R3 single-family residential district, is looking to allow a 13-foot side yard setback where 15 is required, in the construction of a 30-square-foot second-story bump out over the garage. Relevant sections of the town code is 350-12 R3 single-family residential district and 350 5B1 side setbacks of a structure is 15 feet. You're up, sir.
All right, thank you for reviewing my application. Just looking to have a bonus room essentially added on top of the garage. The bump out will only be on the second story. I think it's 2.5 feet. So that brings me to 13 feet within the property line when the ordinance is 15 feet. So that's it. And it's not running across the entire length of the home. It's only, like Ms. Corsi said, it's only about 30 square feet of actual bump out. It's 2.5 by 12 something, or 15 feet something to that matter. And that's it. As far as the neighbor on that side, it's our backyard. They have trees planted on our property lines, so they're not going to notice, I would imagine, either way. But that's the scope of our project.
My goodness, that's a very true thought. All right, and as Erica had explained to me, that it's not the whole footprint that's going to be exceeding the setback, but it's going to be a portion of the upstairs, which 2 feet of the second floor is allowed to hang over into the setback, but this will actually be 3 feet. But it won't be for the entire addition as well. Did I explain that correctly?
Correct. Our code allows a cantilever to be 2 feet within the side setback. So, Mr. Hauser is looking for essentially
One
An additional foot.
an additional foot, correct, yep.
And given that it's-
Just on the second,
And on the, it looks like from the rendering, the back corner of it too.
I believe so. So it's just this part in red here,
Yeah,
sir?
Right.
yeah, the back corner of it.
Yeah.
But based
Yep.
on where the lot line is, it's not even the whole thing, so it's, okay.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments from the rest of the board? It's very straightforward. All right, I will open the discussion up to the public. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against this application?
A lot of complaining.
Seeing no one, we will return the discussion back to the board. And pursuant to NYCRR Section 617 of the Environmental Code, I will make a motion for a type 2 seeker.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Would anyone like to run through the findings?
Sure. There will be no undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, nor will the application be a detriment to nearby properties if the variance were to be granted. There is no other remedy based on the existing house layout and what they need to do. It seems to me that's the best option for expanding the area that they need to go into. And the fact that as it's a bump out, it really only exceeds the allowable cantilever by 1 foot. It's not, because it's only a 2.5 to 3 foot bump out, it's not a significant request. And if it were granted, the area variance would not have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And basically, because it's existing house, it's really not an entirely self-created situation. In fact, it seems to be a really good solution to obtaining more room. So that's it.
Anyone like to add anything to that? Would you like to make a motion?
Sure.
You're doing so well.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve an area variance located at 860 Buttermilk Circle to allow a side setback of 12 feet, where 15 feet is required, associated with the construction of a 30 square foot second story bump out over the garage on a 0.43 acre parcel having SBL number 094.06.1.10 in the R3 Single Family Residential District under sections 350-12 and 350-101 of the Code of the Town of Webster.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Santola,
Aye.
Mrs. Vola,
Aye.
Mr. Spampanato,
Aye.
Mr. Mascara,
Aye.
Mr. Corso.
Aye.
You have your variance granted. You have 1 year of meaningful construction to start this addition, and you must obtain all necessary governmental permits. And you can start the process tomorrow with the town building department.
Will do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just like to try that.
All right, with that, that is the end of the official business of the zoning board of appeals with respect to applications. We do have 2 administrative matters. The first of which is the approval, oh my goodness, of the April minutes. I will make a motion to approve the April minutes, the minutes of the April 8th, 2005 zoning board meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and
Are we
then,
still recorded right now? or not?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and this one is, I will make a motion. I do have enough people. Okay, I will make a motion to approve the May 13th, 2025 minutes for the zoning board of appeals meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Those are now approved as well. And the June is still with you. Okay. All right. And with that, good evening, and we will close the zoning board meeting at 8:27.
Are we off?